on the phone Jeff Smith, who's been involved in Occupy Sandy. First off, Jeff, I mean, we spoke to Jackrabbit last Friday, who was talking about some of the things that Occupy, in conjunction, I guess, with 350.org and some other local organizations. Just tell us, I mean, who are involved in Occupy Sandy, and how did it get started?
Really, it was just the some of the personal contacts and the infrastructure left from the Occupy organizers from a year ago. They had continued to stay in touch and had been working on many other causes throughout the year that you don't really hear about. So, in essence, they're almost most set up to activate at a crisis situation or at a moment's notice and begin this sort of ad hoc organization. And so what you just sort of had, particularly in a part of Brooklyn that did not suffer any hurricane damage and did not lose power at all, which was in Sunset Park, you had a lot of Occupy people immediately start thinking, there's a lot of people close to here. Red Hook was devastated, and obviously the outer boroughs, the Rockaways and Staten Island in particular. And so I think it's just something that Occupy has become really good at it. And the really ironic part of it is that because of the literal encampment from a year ago, those actual skills of taking in donations that people need in that sort of crisis situation were obviously quite suited to what had been presented to it. So I think it was a bit of a natural fit, but at the same time, there was a huge void that Occupy people stepped into, because there really wasn't, as far as I could tell, any institutional support happening anywhere. I mean, I spent the first 5 days of the blackout myself without power, and every day would be going out just in Manhattan, and you just saw nothing. There was no Red Cross response, there was no FEMA response, very little from the city, and if you happen to be lucky enough to be able to get power to get on the internet or to hear some of the mayor's press conferences, you had some information, but there was really no way to connect to people that were not online or that were literally trapped in their apartments. And that's really where Occupy seemed particularly adept at not only using social media and other electronic ways to get the word out, but also to really activate people in the streets and to take volunteers literally door to door and start doing that kind of canvassing work.
Yeah, I mean, it really was stunning. I mean, obviously, in the first a couple of days, people were, if you were in Manhattan, you were stuck in Manhattan. If you were in any one of the boroughs, you were stuck there. I mean, literally, because there was no public transportation. And when we talk about sort of informing people, it seems to me that there were multiple different ways you could do this. You leafleting. Even going around in, we've seen that the police department has the ability to broadcast over PA systems, mobile PA systems. It was eerie there, because to a certain extent, people were so isolated that I think it was hard for other people to realize both the magnitude of the destruction and the lack of response.
Oh, for sure. And, I still really feel, because when you see the response that was taken in terms of both Con Edison and to restore power, at least primarily to the island of Manhattan, and then also the MTA's response, to me it seemed much more like there were priorities involved with the institutional support. And the reason why, so many of the people that fell by the wayside in Coney Island and the Rockaways and Staten Island is because they're primarily not as affluent. And, if you could get out and check into a hotel or, as we saw the same in Katrina, it's really about the wealth inequality that in terms of who really suffers in these situations. That, and particularly the elderly. And in both cases, it just seems like the mayor was a bit disinterested. I mean, I think the flap that came around his wanting to hold the New York City Marathon was perfectly indicative of the same kind of petulance that you saw a year ago at Occupy Wall Street. And, I think it's really more about the city's, unwillingness to really do something. I mean, people had joked that if it had been Al-Qaeda, you would have seen an unholy response, poured into the city. And again, I mean, it was a remarkable job to get the subways up and running again in such short order. That's pretty incredible. And so I have to think that what's still going on with the power outages and the lack of response, particularly from not just FEMA, because obviously FEMA in some ways has been perhaps hollowed out, or isn't even really the type of institutional force that people think it is, but the city's emergency response has been really so lacking. And although Occupy has done a remarkable job stepping in, and they're still to this day, I think it feels like the primary responders, it's an enormous logistical undertaking to try and do this. And so what I found, even myself personally responding to some of these instances, a call would go out and things would be needed, and then by the time you got there, 10 other carloads had already come, and they were already saying, we don't need any of this anymore. And so it's not as if Occupy was, perfectly set up like the best disaster management in the world. It's just that the effort and the manpower was the only thing that was being poured into that. And I think what you saw, particularly on the Lower East Side and other places, there were so many volunteers and such an outpouring of people wanting to donate things, the same as you saw with Occupy Wall Street. There is a genuine desire for people to help other people, and when there's no other place for that outlet to go, I think that people had a clear instance of who really cares about it, and I think that's what we saw a lot.
I want to touch on the specific relief efforts in a second, and I also want to get back to this notion of the sort of quiet network that Occupy has built and the implications of that going forward. But I want to just stay on this moment about Bloomberg for a minute, and about the OEM, which is the Office of Emergency Management. There's Harry Siegel has written a piece in the Daily Beast. I think he went out to Staten Island and was actually looking into, doing some reporting on what's happening with the OEM. But I want people to understand this for a second. I mean, I didn't even realize the marathon was happening. I had in a million years, a week ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that it was happening this weekend. And when I saw that they were actually going to still have the marathon, it was almost one of those things I couldn't even sort of digest this, that I thought it was a joke.
The disconnect was just unbelievable.
Well, I mean, can you imagine for a moment? I mean, because we have now still hundreds of thousands without power as of Saturday, and even today we have pretty close to that. In the outer boroughs, we have people in public housing surrounded by people in private housing who have power, but the public housing does not. We have elderly still stuck in homes, and we don't. Hopefully, we have been able. People have been able to be reached, but the idea that Bloomberg would have gone ahead with the marathon if, say, for some reason, inexplicable as it could be, that a huge chunk of the Upper East Side was without power and people were unreachable, or the idea that if Battery Park was still somehow without power and they were cut off from the rest of the city, in no way implicating the running of the marathon, the idea that would have still been held is completely impossible to imagine. It's completely impossible. The level of, and I don't mean to rant here, Jeff, we're supposed to be doing an interview, but the level of complete disregard for these people is stunning. I mean, just stunning.
No, you're right. I mean, in fact, the covers of the newspapers, I think the Daily News and the Post, both had images of banks of generators in Central Park that were there to keep the runners and the press covering the marathon warm. And literally, they said 400 homes in Staten Island could have been powered with those same generators. And the idea that the marathon actually runs through all 5 boroughs, and the start is in Staten Island. And so just even the thought of setting up and starting this enormous road race literally on the doorsteps of people who are still without power and many who've lost everything and are now virtually homeless is truly stunning. It's like a novel that you probably wouldn't even believe.
The idea on day one that Bloomberg didn't go and ask the sponsors and ask the volunteers and say, all this work that you're planning to do, Can we reorient this? Set up the generators for people. Get some type of feeding station. You're planning on giving all these people water who are running. Give to the people who can't get running water from their apartments. I mean, it's just beyond the pale.
There were reports of people who were in hotel rooms because they were displaced because of Sandy being kicked out because marathon runners who were coming in from out of town had reservations.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's just so hard to absorb it. It reads like a satire. It reads like a Terry Southern novel. But be that as it may, let's move on to the more specifics. What is it that Occupy Sandy is doing right now, and where are some of the areas which are of the greatest concern?
Well, there are a number of them. The primary hub right now is in Brooklyn at a church called St. Jacobi, which is in Sunset Park, and that's operating as sort of the main storage area where people bring donations, and then they're sorted, and then teams are sort of sent out when individual needs are identified, and people go out in cars and are mobilizing to people. There's other similar types of spots like that now that have popped up. There's another one in Clinton Hill. If you go to there's a website, interoccupy.net/Occupy Sandy, that has all of these locations on there.
I think it works as occupysandy.com.
Yeah, you can go to occupysandy.com.
Okay.
The same. And so you'll find there, but basically what happens is you can go there and you get a bit of an orientation, and then you'll be sent out either with other people that have cars. And not only really is it's supplies and drinking water, things like that people need, but it's also physical labor. And so people are actually just taking cleaning supplies with them and going for a day and just going house to house and helping people clean up. So it's that level of effort, and it really is power intensive. So another area that was obviously really hard hit that's nearby to New York City is in Red Hook, and although it's not flooded anymore, basically everything in the entire city was ruined. So if you can imagine every apartment, all the furniture soaking wet, mildewed, that sort of thing. So it's an enormous cleanup project still going on there. And then, the Rockaways and Staten Island still are two of the primarily hardest hit areas. And so there are specific initiatives set up at both of those locations. But still, people should either try and go through the main hub in Brooklyn at Sunset Park, or at the very least try and get their information directly from people. Again, the hardest thing is the logistics and making sure that not too many people are going to one place and other places are left stranded. So, there's a lot of hot meals that are being prepared still for these people and delivered just in mass by volunteers. That's something that FEMA and some of the other institutional support have tried to deliver. What are these kind of government issue emergency rations, which are not exactly what people are looking for after being in the dark for a couple of weeks. So even just a hot, comfortable meal and some flashlights with batteries is really important to these people who've just, basically they're waiting it out. And as I found out, when you lose power and you're going through it for a long period of time, each successive day is sort of cumulative. And the longer it goes, really the harder it gets. And so the people now that are going to face the next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks without power, potentially, it really gets even harder for those people. So the idea that now that the rescue efforts are mostly over is probably wrong. I mean, now I think it's becoming more urgent for people that thought they could perhaps wait it out or didn't want to have to go down. I mean, a lot of these high-rise buildings, without the power, old people cannot get up and down.
That's the thing I think that people don't fully understand. I mean, you've got 75-year-old, 80-year-old, 85-year-olds who are living on the 15th floor of these buildings. I mean, what are they going to do? You have people who use walkers. I mean, this is the thing that I think people don't understand is that people are literally trapped there and without a capacity to get down. It really is stunning. And so, well, let me ask you this in terms of just sort of logistics. Are there feeder locations to send supplies to those other distribution centers? A, and B, are there specific supplies that are most in need now as opposed to what was in need 5 days ago? In other words, like I know some areas they're asking for high capacity and strong contractor bags, for instance, because to do that cleanup. And then other areas are saying no more clothes. We've got as much clothes as we can sort of absorb at this point. Other places saying more batteries and flashlights. Do you have a sense of that, or is that something we would get from the website?
The situation really seems to be pretty fluid, changing. I've definitely gotten those reports as well. I think that the upcoming winter weather, and particularly the nor'easter that people are worried about, is making the need for blankets and warm winter coats, things like that, obviously more pressing than they were before. And I think that as far as I could see, batteries and flashlights were always at a premium, and so as long as the power is going to continue to be going out, or as long as the power is out, I think those items, right, even candles to provide light, will continue to be important. But it definitely is shifting, and I think that you get a big drop-off of water from the National Guard at some spot, and then all of a sudden you don't have to bring water there. But so yes, I would definitely say that it's most helpful to try and get either an actual address or location that's saying they need a particular item, or to load up your car with, as I said, a bunch of these things and head out on your own, and literally you can go door to door and just ask people, and you will find people that have not had anyone contact them, or or have been unable to get any kind of help. So I think it's odd, but really the ethic of Occupy as well is this sort of DIY instinct, and that for some people that want to volunteer in a way that's a little bit more structured, it's somewhat harder. And I think some of the centers even had people sort of just standing around and not really knowing what to do. But if you really want to jump in and take this on head first, you get some work gloves and cleaning supplies and load up your car and get to work. And so I would definitely suggest that if people go to one of these intake places, they don't be bashful, and try and stake out an actual spot that you think has need, and go do it. And that's really what I think the city and the institutional support doesn't seem to get, is that people don't want a clipboard or a phone number to sign up for something. They actually want stuff and someone to show up and help them. And I found that everywhere that I went helping people, you got at least that personal knowledge that people were being helped. And so
now, lastly, there's on Amazon, there's an Occupy Sandy and Occupy Sandy's wedding registry. What do you know about this? We have a link to it on our site. I just want get a sense of what your sense is of it.
I saw that as well, and I think that's a way for people to obviously try and convert their money into something that's specific that they know people will be using. I think there's been a lot of money that has been raised even by Occupy Sandy, and it's really hard to figure out how to turn that money into real help. And so I think the closer you can get to actually bringing something to one of these locations, or even yourself volunteering, that's way more valuable at this point.
Right. But I mean, obviously, if someone's living in California, is there value? Do we know enough about this registry that we can feel confident that if somebody goes there and buys, some blankets or contracting bags or flashlights, toothbrushes, that it's going to get to the right place?
I mean, I don't know personally enough about it to vouch for it on that level. It's definitely being promoted by the same Occupy Sandy, sources that I've been seeing and working through. So I would at the very least say I'd be far more comfortable donating to that than I would be to donating to the Red Cross or one of those types of organizations. I mean, I don't know if you heard specifically the Staten Island borough president actually excoriate the Red Cross and tell people specifically not to give their money to them. So
yeah, I think they made up after that. But
is that right? But
yes, be that as it may. Yes, I mean, one never knows. But I mean, if these are the same people engaged in this, caveat emptor, folks. But I think it's pretty clear if you're buying blankets and toothbrushes and stuff that really will have an immediate, direct impact on people.
Another positive of sending direct supplies is that gas is still very scarce here. So if you get them scarce here, so if you get them the if you get them the if you get them the supplies directly to them, let Amazon spend the money getting them there, and then they don't have to use that money to get to the store.
Yes, and so we'll put that link up there, and we've routed it through the Majority Report link, and obviously we'll kick all that back into buying stuff through there. So, but we just got just 2 more minutes, Jeff.
Sure.
I think one of the things that's really interesting about this is it shows, aside from the great work that is happening, it shows that this network that was set up by Occupy has not just real utility, but real, strength, and that it's not as if the Occupy movement just faded into the ether. It is on the ground doing more, I think, grinded out work that I think down the road is going to pay dividends.
I agree, and I think it's ironic that as reticent as occupiers were to becoming involved in electoral politics, what their real strength is almost more so just pure grassroots politics.
Right.
And that at some point, if that network can become developed enough, it could turn into a real kind of political power that could be exercised in any way. And and the last point I want to make, and sort of tying into the issue of the election, I certainly know your position and where you are relative to the Matt Stolers of the world in terms of supporting Obama from the left. But, I think the one point that maybe hasn't been underscored is that, to me, what an Obama administration really does is it separates out the true kind of progressive voices from the partisans. Mm-hmm. And so, that alone, I think, is valuable to be able to see, when any of these issues come up where we're talking about 2 different systems for the rich and for the poor, it's interesting to see which people are going to line up on Obama's side versus the actual, ideological consistency. And so, if we had a John McCain presidency right now, you'd certainly see on MSNBC all the, negatives of drone warfare, and you hear all about, how he's shredding the Constitution, but then it goes away with an Obama administration. And so I think this grassroots side of Occupy Wall Street also is potentially the way that you can see a true splitting off of the partisan side of the Democratic Party from, the genuine side or the true left side, and that is, ultimately the end game for a change in electoral politics. And until then, I think you have to still put up with Obama, I think.
I couldn't agree with that assessment more. Jeff Smith, thanks so much for coming in and talking to us about what's going on there. And if you have any updates, please let us know, and we'll put it on the blog. We'll talk about it.